Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to our next presentation from Rola Wellstead, co-founder of Cyber Experts, and Robin Belenga, performance lead at Scout B. Their presentation is entitled Transforming and Modernizing the Cybersecurity Mindset. Before we get started, I just wanted to remind everyone of a couple of things. So if you'd like to ask questions to the speakers, please use the pause function to the right of your viewing pane. And if you haven't already, click the theater mode button under the viewing pane to watch in full screen. I'm going to hand over to you ladies now.
Hello, my name is Robin Belenga, and I am with a company called Scout B. And my title is Human Factors Performance Lead, which may sound a little odd to some of you in cyber, but I was actually listening to a webinar a couple of weeks ago by Proofpoint, and they were discussing that moving forward, a good CISO should have a human factors expert by their side. So that is actually what I do. So moving on, we're talking today about building a proactive security culture. And with the security culture, you've got the benefits of not being reactive, but being proactive. So the first issue is when we no longer operate in a reactive mode, we're not fighting fires, we're actually preventing predictable breaches. And I'll get back to that in a minute. We have awareness. Now, a lot of people, everybody's doing security awareness training, but when you're looking at a full security culture, a healthy culture, it's top down and it goes throughout the organization, and you are teaching awareness, not just awareness, but more comprehension. And you're able to go through your organization, and we are looking now and moving away from awareness training to actual comprehension and security culture building, which is identifying behaviors that may or may not be healthy. It's not monitoring employees, it's just looking at certain patterns of behavior. And what you can do is, I say, discover near misses. So if you are, and a lot of us are doing phishing emails and different things like that to help people become more versed on what to look for. We also, having a proactive security culture helps improve compliance and, more importantly, improve comprehension. So we have a healthy security culture. What does that really mean? We like to talk at Scout B about psychological safety. I'm very, very fortunate that I have a company that from the top down believes in psychological safety, bringing in the different parts of not just the technical issues that we have to have, the technical controls and the design, but also bringing in what's going on with our people. I like to call it know your people, because having a psychological safe environment basically means that if I am working in admin department or marketing department, if I've got a problem, if I accidentally hit a phishing email or something like that, then I feel safe to go to the IT department or the InfoSec department and say, look, man, I screwed up. And it's a blame-free attitude. And then that attitude helps people feel like they can be very open and honest about what they're doing and their jobs, and if they've messed up or whatever, and it helps to build a better organization. Empathy is also very important. When I'm reading or had read a book by Perry Carpenter called Transforming Security, and I do really highly recommend it. And he talks about having empathy with, excuse me, with your employees and with each staff member. Everybody learns differently, and you've got to go in when you're building this culture and listen. Don't go in and talk, but listen to how people learn, what visual aids that they like to have. Everybody learns differently. So have empathy for your team and understand that they've got jobs to do, and their job may not be cyber, but we want to let them know how important it is. And, one of the top goals of the organization is to stay cyber secure. Also empowerment, I put down, and empowerment, it's similar to psychological safety, but empowerment is more on the terms of if I see something going on, then I can go and tell any of my superiors without the fear of retribution. And Matthew Syed wrote a book. It's called Black Box Thinking, and he talks about situational awareness. And it's a whole different webinar, but situational awareness is basically where you pay attention to everything that is going on around you. And there are incidents where people have lost time because they're so focused on an incident that they aren't looking at everything else that's going around them. And if you've got staff members around you that maybe aren't as senior, but they are empowered to let their senior management know, sometimes it can stop something from happening. I've thrown in just some cybersecurity frameworks that you can use when you're building your whole security culture. I like to start with a roadmap, and I'm a big fan of Stephen Covey, and he always says, begin with the end in mind. So when you're doing your security roadmap, think about where you want to be in 3 years. I wouldn't go further than 3 because things change so much. And then take it back, and like I have a 30, 60, 90-day program that how I want to see behaviors change. But you can look at NIST. They give you some good guidance. Of course, the Gartners, the Zero Trust, the objectives, the ISOs, and of course the CISC. I do want to say that when you're building a healthy, robust, positive, non-punitive security culture, I would encourage you to be careful of the words that you use also, because we tend to use words. I was listening to a woman speak the other day. She's with Pensant Masons, Denise Bernard, and she says that we tend to use words that are very military in cyber. So attacks and zero trust and words that just aren't real super warm and fuzzy when you're talking about building a positive environment. So I would encourage you to think about the words that you use, and when you're teaching and training, and be a little bit gentler with some of the verbiage. But when you're proactive, you're preventing and not reacting as much, which we talked about. One of the things that I did, and right before I wrap up and send it over to you, Laura, when I had a business back in the States, and pretty successful, and was growing leaps and bounds. And, like any small business, you wear several hats. And I actually got hacked by a long-term employee, and it was kind of the beginning of the end. And at that point, when I decided to close the business, I came and got my master's in information security, and I emphasized human factors and internal threats. And this screen that you see right here is another framework. And I know everybody hates frameworks, but this is called the Human Factors Analysis Classification System. And it's been used, I don't have time to fully go into this, but it's used globally in very high risk situations for investigation. So it's used all through military, airlines, commercially, nuclear power plants, rail, mining, any place where there's a highly sensitive issues, or when awful things can go wrong. And I'm doing a webinar with SASIG on December 1st about this whole system. But basically, very simply, we take an act like a breach, and that would be sort of down here, and then work the way through the system, all the way up through the different levels of the organization to figure out why an incident occurred. So some people will take a breach and they'll stop investigating at the actual action, say, clicking on a phishing email. That's actually where we start. So we don't look for root cause. We start at root cause, and it's pretty fascinating. I found it really exciting. So we are actually taking at Scout B this framework and using it in our risk assessment to try to see if we can find areas in which we can improve the organization, being proactive prior to a breach. And now I will move it on to you, Laura.
Thank you, Robin. Thanks, Robin, for that. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me, for coming to listen. So my part, I'm going to talk more around the mindset and how you can transfer, how you can think about transforming and modernising the way you think around your people. So what does cybersecurity culture, how does that embed within your people? What difference does it make within your workforce? What you tend to see is your actual people feel like they are they're more inclusive, they're more they feel like they belong, they're more comfortable. They and from that you get higher employment engagement, so they actually want to work harder. If they are working harder, then actually company is going to perform better. If people are happy in the workplace, in their work environment with their colleagues, and the work that they're doing, they feel fulfilled, then you get a higher retention rate. If your employees are happy in the workplace, they're being fulfilled, they're delivering great work, and they feel like they have a purpose, and they feel a sense of belonging with their teams, and they feel like they're thriving in their roles because everything feels great around them, and they don't have any kind of negativity around the way that they perform their work, or that they can't actually talk to anybody if they're having a problem. So then they become your company brand ambassadors. They're the ones that actually put out into the market and talk to people, their friends, their networks, through their social media, and actually put a really great stamp on the business and the brand and as an employer. And then you actually start to become seen and perceived as an employer choice. So that then feeds on to your future talent. So if you are planning to grow, or you have number of hires to make for whatever reason, your culture is really, really important for your future growth and your future talent, because you really need to consider your future talent as like your customers. So you have to put some effort into actually attracting them to the business. And I often use a term, or a lot use a term, around when you are recruiting, or you're considering recruiting or scaling your workforce at pace, you need to think of, do they know you? Do they like you? And do they trust you? And those are the three key points you really need to consider when you're making hires, or you're planning to grow your business. So in terms of, do they know you? Do you have a reputation in market? Do you have are you a well-known brand? Are you a small player in your market, or are you a big player? And what do people think of you? It's not just your customers, but actually people potential employees or ex-employees. So reputation is absolutely key. If you're experiencing some security issues or breaches within the business, then reputation is obviously going to go against you. If you have a security breach, obviously that's going to be a negative against your business. If you if you have a great cybersecurity culture internally and people feel comfortable and they're confident to actually share their experiences or struggles that they're having, then that's fantastic. How, you know, the people are going to be more engaged and more and feel comfortable and confident to deliver work within that business. Then if you haven't got that blame culture, which, you know, sometimes is there, it exists within organisations that don't have a wide understanding of the activities and the controls that they're actually managing, and they don't understand the consequences. So it's an easy way to, you know, to have that negativity around you, the way you treat somebody or the way you behave or act if something happens to you. If you have a fantastic culture, or you're really trying hard to embed that, work with your employees and make them feel comfortable and confident in managing these processes and how they do their work on a daily basis, then obviously you're going to have a great reputation. These guys are going to talk about how they're treated, again, which I mentioned just now, but that also gets out in the market with candidates, with the talent pools that you might be attracting in the future. So if you have a great reputation, or if you have a good reputation, then people are going to know who you are. If they are hearing fantastic things from your employees, they're acting like your brand ambassadors, then they're going to feel confident and comfortable and interested in the business. If they are interacting with your social media channels, if you're building a communication line with people and sharing information about what you do internally as a workforce, how you treat your workforce, what are the benefits that you offer to your staff, not just around your employee benefits that come with your package, but actually what do you do? How do you care for your staff? How do you make a difference in life? How do you care and show you care about their well-being? How that type of activity and information enables candidates to feel like they can trust you. That in turn then attracts talent to your business and enables you to build organic pipelines. So you actually you have people that actually are really keen to work for your business. Sorry about that, guys, my camera's off. You actually attract people to your business who are interested, that consider you as a great employer, an employer of choice, as we call it, and are waiting there for the times you want to hire. And what that then perpetuates is a much faster, tighter hiring process. You actually then are able to fill your roles a lot quicker. So what does that actually mean then in terms of cybersecurity talent specifically? Because generally, what we're talking then about, all future talent then, but specifically cybersecurity talent. What do all businesses need some element of cybersecurity skills? So it's really important that businesses do consider how they approach this cybersecurity culture and embed that throughout their business. ISC Squared conducted a cybersecurity workforce survey. The last one they did, which is nearly 2 years ago now, having surveyed over 250 industry professionals, their statistics and points that they were really keen, the priorities that they would like to understand from an employer to consider to work for them. 68% of those are adamant that they want to know and they want it demonstrated that leadership teams will take their opinions seriously and their advice on what needs to be embedded throughout the company from a security perspective. 62% actually want ownership of, they want to see ownership of cybersecurity responsibilities throughout the business, with everybody being able to actually manage their own pipeline of work and the activities and controls that they have on a daily basis. They want to see that evidence and want to have comfort in that it's actually embedded through the business. And then 59% of those security professionals insist or prioritise that actually employee training throughout the business and also investment in technology, improving tools, keeping on top, ahead of the curve with the way that they operate and the tools that they use, is also a massive priority. So lastly, what does that mean to the business? How can the business convert that? Where do they start? Robin's has got some, fantastic tools there to, that you guys can have a look at. But actually, in terms of softer skills, things to start thinking about, it's about winning hearts and minds with your employees. Be honest with them about what needs to be done, how, consequences of if it's not. Outline that mission in terms of what is it going to mean to the business, where, how does it position them against their competitors. Actually ensure that the executive team are fully on board, and it has to be demonstrated. They have to be talking about it, showing it, doing what they, practicing what they preach, pushing it from top down. With that, you are then going to get a better engagement and respect from your employees. Invest in that training. It's so important, because they have to understand and learn how to fit it into their daily work activities. That said, cybersecurity culture and controls and management do have to be applied in a dynamic way that actually fits within employees' work activities, because otherwise, if it's going to create too much of an issue, then naturally it's going to drop off. Keep a score, monitor who does well, who doesn't, use it as gamification in a way, and also keep the conversation open. Don't be embarrassed about it. People need to learn. And sometimes it takes a long time to build that into your daily habits. It is a habit to a degree, but it's also a very important one. And they need to understand the consequences if they can't follow the rules. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Laura and Robin. We've got a couple of questions that came in. So I'm going to start with the first one. So someone asked, my managing director isn't interested in things like creating culture. How can I get him on board?
You want to take that one, Laura, or you want me to?
I love these people. I think he needs to understand or identify what has been happening in the business because of his attitude. Is there anything tangible that you can show? Have you had a high attrition rate, people leaving? Is there a poor practice? Has there been any mistakes, or clients have been affected by it? Something that actually means something to him or her in terms of the company, they lead the company's important to them, their position in the company, how the company is perceived on the outside world is important to them. So they need to understand it in a way that actually impacts that environment for them, I'd say.
And I would also expand on that a little bit and look at what motivates that manager. So people behave and do things around their motivations. So if data motivates your manager, then you can go to Forrester report, or there are many documents out there right now that talk about not only human factors, but the health of a full-blown security culture that is led from the top down. There's a lot of literature out there, and sometimes if you can't reason with somebody, and when you're talking about behaviors and things like that, it's a little bit more challenging. But when you can back up the conversation with data.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
We've got another question that came through, which says, how do you create a healthy security culture within organizations where cyber digital awareness is generally low? I don't know who would like to take that one.
Greg Vandergast, who's my CISO, wrote a book called Rethinking InfoSec. It's a really good book, and he has a quote, and I'm sorry I don't have the actual quote in front of me, but he talks about being comfortable in our pain and getting kind of used to the fact that not if you're going to have a breach, but when.
Yeah.
And that's a really scary place to be. So unfortunately, culture really needs to be led. When I was doing my master's, tons of research and papers have been written on the fact that the most successful, healthy, robust, hygienic cyber companies that have a healthy cyber risk
Culture.
register, I guess, is led from the top down. So how to change someone's behavior is hard when you're not the boss, but again, I'd go back to, finding data.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you said earlier, what motivates them? Everything has to come from top down.
Yeah.
To make it effective and respected and effective within the business.
And one of the things that we talk about a lot in human factors as well is that, it's the three processes. It's people, process, and technology. And we're spending millions of dollars on technology, and heaven knows we're doing all the processes because we've got compliance, GDPR and ISO and whatever, but we neglect the people. And if you look, there was a webinar yesterday, and a hacker was talking about social engineering, and he said every single breach comes down to a person in one way, shape, or form. So if everybody in that organization is not aware of and has a healthy attitude about cyber. And one of the things that I like to talk about, when we were talking about this earlier, Laura, is that I prefer to teach people how to be healthy and cyber secure in their own personal lives. And then when they understand that, they tend to bring that into their organization or own it a little bit more in their job. And that's something that maybe you can talk to if your manager. And I had to do some case studies in grad school, and I've talked to companies where the owners just can't stand it. I mean, I talk about cyber and they're just like, stop, just fix it, just stop. I can't stand it. They can't be bothered with the passwords and stuff. And it just, finally, I sat down with one of my friends and said, look, this is just a fact of life.
Yeah.
And if whatever I can do to help you get comfortable with it, but you got to accept it, because your bank is not just trying to upset you by encrypting every email. They're complying by regulations they have to comply with. But we're all trying to make it a safer place. So
there's a lot of businesses are really trying to move forward and actually embrace it and understand now that actually it is a change of mindset and way of thinking, not just for them, but they have to, but they have to demonstrate that they accept it and they embrace it, to then obviously drill it down through the business. And it's that dynamic approach to it, isn't it? How do you fit it in with the way people work? How do you not make it an arduous chore that takes them longer to do something that they've already got a really, really busy day to do? It's 15 years ago maybe, I'm working in a corporate company, I could just remember everybody moaning about everything, and it was just a tick box exercise. And there's so many businesses that still think and operate like that. It's just crazy. It's the mindset of, oh god, it's even as leadership, the way they educate and communicate it through the business. Just get it done. It's frightening really that today it still goes on, but it just takes a while to move on, doesn't it?
But you know what? That's why it's so exciting to do, to see all the different training companies that are out there, and they're making the training more interesting, more engaging. And that's why I said, when you're thinking about building a culture, you've got to listen. You got to listen to how people like to learn. We have an international company, and so we've got some different. Well, gosh, 15 different languages that we have to take into consideration. So anyway, it can be fun and a part of your lifestyle. And when it's part of your lifestyle, then you'll just naturally be a little bit more healthy.
Yeah, I know a business that actually delivers it through storytelling, which is just fascinating. When I've watched some of the webinars and things they've held, you can't imagine that those two would go together, but it does, and it works, and they're very successful. It's so many different ways that it can be delivered now. Like you say, different people learn in different ways, and we just have to be mindful about how we, from a diversity perspective as well, how we provide for our employees that enables them to do the best work that they can do.
Yeah, I guess changing mindsets is hard, and it's finding that pinpoint in which you can speak to that person a certain way, and like you said, motivates them. So thank you both so much for your time today. It was a really pleasure having you both. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you everyone for asking your questions.
Thank you.
We need to wrap up. We need to move on to the next session now. We've got 2 items due to start soon, so feel free to head there. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thanks, Vanessa.
Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.